recently we lost an RFP with a tier one institution, and they really liked us. But what it came down to is that we were too expensive, and we're not going to quality will not come to a detriment because we are going to chase a paycheck, right?
Mm,
I'm not going to change the quality that we deliver because that is our calling card,
yeah.
just because I want that logo on my website. It's not worth it. It
Mm.
really isn't. Somebody else can see that, and then next thing you know, your name is associated with whatever that garbage that you put out. And so we're very, very particular about that. So I would say that in a lot of cases, we are our best protector and our own worst enemy when it comes to new business.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Business of Learning podcast. My guest here today is Tim Hamelen, who is the CMO of iDesign. Hi,
Hey,
Tim. Thanks for being here, of course.
thank you very much for having me.
1000%. Tell everyone a little bit more about you, Tim, and a little bit more about iDesign, who you guys are, who you help, all that stuff.
So I am I guess I'm called a Web 1.0 direct response marketer. I've been around since '99 in some fashion or other, moving my way through the ranks, touching every part of marketing along the way, kind of moving outside of digital at many points, but trying to use that same direct response scope. Um, yes, so that's me. I've done
Mhm.
everything. I've been through all of the changes on all of the platforms. I've seen all of the dips and dives in the market for for online driven startups and so on and so forth.
Mhm.
And I made it out the other end. iDesign was born out of our founders seeing the need for greater instructional design when it came to online courses. Online courses were booming in the early 2010s, and two of the co-founders saw the need not necessarily for just as much for acquisition for students, but
Mhm.
in the matriculation and in the, I guess I would call, even at that point, workforce development of those students. Were they coming out the other end with something that was engaging, and were they able to then apply that to the job they were going to get?
Mhm.
And so that was born. We now are the largest. Um, we have the largest bench of instructional designers, U.S. based, over 200. That is our bread and butter is instructional design, from everything, all learning platforms, all learning management systems,
Yeah.
and they all go through the same rigor. We are incredibly uh, laborious in terms of how we look at okay, so each university is worried about accreditation, of course, right?
Sure.
Right? So we got to worry about that in terms of the curriculum, and then we have to worry about all the other things. Are these learning outcomes both for the institution as well as maybe a professional standard or something along those lines? Are they all giving the student the same experience as if they were on ground?
Mhm.
Because it's not just a Zoom call. It's not just this, right? This
Yeah.
is not online learning. Online learning is a lot more than
Mhm.
that. Okay, so that's us. We now have we do a little bit of online program management, very little, and
Mhm.
we do a fair amount of SaaS. We have a tool called Align, which is a curriculum information system, and it also is an accreditation. And, excuse me, we're going to need to cut that accreditation and AI assisted mapping tool, and we're very excited about that as well. So that's iDesign. Tim
Mm,
Hamlin.
that's awesome. And I have actually two questions for you. One, which is the your background related question, but I'll start with the latter, which is how uh, uh, I believe there's a mention that you guys actually used to also help hospital systems and as well. Is that also still the case, or is that no longer the case?
Well,
How does that differ
if
from what you
if
guys
a
do? Yeah.
university is tied to a hospital system,
Mm,
so
I see.
Northwestern University, University of Texas Tyler,
Mm,
right? Those are universities that are tied to a hospital system. That is where we would come in to maybe bridging the gap between what that hospital system needs in
mhm,
terms of nursing or any other role within the hospital, how that university gets them those individuals, and how is that curriculum tied to, so can we reduce the amount of time of onboarding a nurse
mhm,
because the curriculum is so tied into what that hospital needs and
Yeah.
what the university is producing. So
Mhm. Yeah,
that would
thank you for the clarification there, thank you.
yeah.
And then the other question that I had is for you, and we were having a discussion, previously about direct response and so many other things that happen alongside it. For you as someone who was very involved in direct response, how have you seen the adaptation and the functionality of marketing in higher ed, which from someone looking from the outside is not very much, I guess, direct response driven, but correct me if I'm wrong. Talk to
No,
me about that.
no, okay. No, you're right. It it is and it isn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. How are we going to get into this? Okay.
Yeah.
So higher education, in some instances, has become a commoditized product, right? In some instances,
Yep.
and so in those instances, and I won't go into those programs or the or what have you. You know,
Mhm.
is it on ground? You know, what's the modality? Is it on ground, hybrid, online? In those instances, there is a possibility that the program tuition is at a price range where you could make a a knee jerk reaction.
Mm.
Okay, that's not always been in higher ed. It in higher ed, it was I have to do a lot of homework
Mhm.
and determine if this is going to meet my schedule as an adult learner.
Yeah.
But as an adult learner, you also have disposable income. Kids don't have that. Kids have their parents' disposable income. And in most
Mhm.
cases, they don't have that.
Mhm.
So now you're focusing on the adult learner who has disposable income, and in some cases, a program that would take them from their current role a higher role up the ladder immediately, just with
Mhm.
that degree.
Yeah.
In that case, you can use some direct response measurements in terms of the efficacy of a campaign. But still, direct response has gone from, hey man, what's my last click attribution to great, the last click attribution was X, but what was the journey in
Mhm.
every other piece that I had?
Yeah. 1000%. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think that gives people a good clarity on like how the navigation actually happens on the back end, which is awesome. And I wanted to bring up that for so many conversations that I've had, not even specifically to higher ed, but I think most prominently in higher ed, I think trust is always such a huge factor in having that relationship. So, how have you found that journey of building trust with possible institutions that you guys look to work with?
These are, in some cases, 250-year-old brands,
Yeah.
300-year-old brands, 350-year-old brands, right? This is not, I mean, this is not Levi's. Okay, I choose a brand that's like 120 years old, US made. This is not that. These are institutions of higher learning, and they have built their brands painstakingly over, at this point, centuries.
Hmm.
So how do you go about starting a conversation with somebody that doesn't know they need a conversation,
Yep.
and at what point do you start that conversation, and with whom do you have that conversation? Because you can have that conversation with a provost, but they're not the ones making the final decision, or maybe they are, but they need a lot of other buy-in,
Yeah.
right? Higher ed in its core is a very bureaucratic effort. And so there's a lot of stakeholders that have to sign off on something.
Hmm.
Specifically, if you are going to take one of your programs, one of your babies, and you're going to say, "All right, we're going to go online with this." And now you have to teach every level of the institution, in most cases, not in all cases, what online learning is,
Hmm.
because now you need their buy-in.
Hmm.
All of that happens pre-sale.
Yeah. And what do you think is it like throughout all those steps? And it's always going to be like a million. Hey, and then this person and then that person. How these two people talk internally. How you set them up with the information. A million things, right? What do you think is the most challenging part of those steps? The initial step, the middle step, the last step?
The first step.
Mhm.
Um, Understanding that if you want to increase revenue in a not-for-profit institution, okay, now we're going, we need to see this, but we are not for profit. Um, you need to get in with a business mind that understands that if I need to increase enrollment, I can't keep building new buildings.
Mm.
That is now There's no more land. There
Mhm.
are no more buildings to be built. Now, that's not the case. A lot of universities are building new buildings. But if I want to increase my revenue tomorrow or within the next 12 months, what's
Mhm.
the easiest way to do it? And so that's the individual that you have to get to. Whoever that person is,
Mhm.
they have to understand that the only way for their business to continue to grow,
Mhm.
not to define itself, not to crush all competitors,
Mhm.
just to continue to grow. That person needs to be the acolyte that we get to. To
Yeah.
start to cold call somebody, you have no idea if that person even exists.
Mhm.
So when do you find them? How do you find them? At what point?
Mhm.
When's their budget year? When's their fiscal year? When do they make decisions
Yeah.
with their board of directors?
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, it's just always like this repeating pattern that keeps happening in so many conversations that I have as well. Is that is I guess finding that person or having that initial conversation, is that a challenge for iDesign, and just how do you
Mm,
maximize the volume of
mm,
conversations coming through?
no, we are very lucky.
Mhm.
Our CEO and our CAO, so our CEO and our chief academic officer are well regarded is like me putting it conservatively in higher ed space. So for them to get a meeting with somebody isn't. I mean, it's not like they can just walk in anywhere, but their name precedes them, or they have somebody that can walk them in the door. That's not always the case,
Mhm.
and so we are very lucky to have two individuals that are, I mean, they're rock stars. They're rock stars in higher ed. Specifically, our chief academic officer, Whitney Kilgore. She's bar none. Like she's one of those people that walks through a conference and people are like, "Well, Whitney, Whitney, Whitney." Like that's
Awesome. That's good. That's cool. And I always like to ask the question too, because I don't know. I obviously don't work at iDesign. So I don't know what you guys go through internally. I don't know what the discussions are. I don't know what the goals are. But when you are looking at those goals and you're like, hey, this is what we want to achieve this quarter, next quarter, for the entirety of the year, for the next 5 years, 10 years, when those discussions are always happening, what are some of the things that are, and obviously you don't have to give me precise details here, but what are some of the things that are like obstacles in the way of like, if we could only just get that rock out of the road,
no,
it would be so much simpler for us.
not here. We have
Mhm.
no venture capital backed. We're completely bootstrapped. And you and I had talked about this. So there's no higher power that we need to get approval on. It is a quick consensus with four like-minded individuals.
Mm,
And in most cases, we don't need all four. Two of them are in office together, and two of us are remote from a C-suite standpoint. And
mhm.
um, we're again, we're very like-minded. And so um, I lost my train of thought. Give it to me again. We're gonna have to
Yeah,
fix that.
sorry, no, when it comes to, like, achieving those goals, what are
Oh, so
obstacles in the way?
there are no obstacles. There's
Mhm,
nothing. If we want to test something, if we want to create a little R&D lab and do it, we do it. We
mhm,
have the ability, we have the means to do it. The only obstacle that's in our way would be ourselves.
mhm,
Are we being too innovative? Are we trying to chew off or bite more than we can chew, chew off more than
mhm.
we can, and whatever,
Like, whether it gets you
swallow? Yeah,
again.
yeah. So,
Yeah, interesting. So when you say that, you're looking at that, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, but it sounds like you're looking at that from the internal lens of who we are and what we do, what we're capable of doing, and executing on what we believe might work or might not work. But again, we're willing to test it out.
and
From
within our core
your guys'
competency as well,
mm,
right? So we're not going to tomorrow. Listen, uh, we would love to service K through 12.
sure.
K through 12 does not have the same tuition and student acquisition probabilities that
Mhm,
a higher ed institution has.
mhm,
So we couldn't tomorrow be like, you know what, K through 12 is what we're going after.
sure.
It's just not going to happen,
That's not the scope. Yeah.
right? So
Mhm,
that's an easy one. Like, okay, no, that does not, though that does not follow the tenets.
mhm,
Each one of our revenues, tranches
sure.
has their own audience, and
Mhm.
we're true to that. We're not going to do something just for to chase a paycheck. Would be a better way of putting it.
Mm. But okay, I like that. I like that. Thank you for reframing that. That's good. Interesting. And when it comes to the internal, it's like, hey, we got it all sorted. The four of us, like, we're like-minded. We're going towards the same. We're going all in the same direction, which I think is more than many other companies can say. But so that's one thing. But two, how about the external side of it then? So when it comes to finding a lot more of the higher education companies that you guys can work with and obviously implement that partnership, what are some of the things that possibly come in the way there? Or is that also as well, hey, as long as we have these conversations and we're able to get a lot of conversations, as many as we want, then it's just a matter of if it's the right fit. Yeah, I'd love to
I
just
think
learn a little more
well,
about that.
that's what it comes down to. Recently, we lost an RFP um, with a tier one institution, and they really liked us. But what it came down to is that we were too expensive.
Mm,
We we are, and we're not going to. Um, Quality will not come to a detriment because we are going to chase a paycheck, right?
mm,
So I'm not going to change the quality that we deliver because that is our calling card,
yeah.
just because I want that logo on my website.
Mm,
It's not it's not worth it. It
mm,
really isn't. Somebody else can see that, and then next thing you know, your name is associated with whatever that garbage that you put out. And so we're very, very particular about that.
mm,
Um, so I would say that um, in a lot of cases, we are we are our best protector and our own worst enemy when it comes to new business.
hmm.
Does that make sense?
That's interesting. That's interesting. I like that perspective though, because you guys aren't compromising your values just to have that on the back end, which is good. I like that. Huh, interesting.
I'm not going to find a third party that can do it for us cheaper and tell you that we're doing it super cheap and then funnel it out to the third party. I'm just not going to do that.
Mhm.
It's just not the way we were built. Anyways, please, sorry I interrupted.
Oh, no, yeah, no stress, no stress. What do you think are some of the biggest lessons throughout your career? It could be from mentors or maybe from some of your experiences that's really impacted the way that you think or that you act now whenever you're trying to work on big projects or make decisions within the company now. So maybe one or two lessons, Tim, that you took from a mentor or from an experience that you really just hold tightly to your chest and how you view growing a company.
You know what? I'll start with culture.
Mm,
So I've worked with a gentleman named David Anastenis. He goes by Buck Anastenis. I worked with him for 15 years at three or four different companies. I'd have to look, but we worked together at the beginning, and we just kept working together. Um, and it was because everywhere that we went had a startup feel to it,
mm,
which means that every person is on deck. Every person wears multiple hats, and every person is comfortable wearing multiple hats.
mm,
There's always a little bit of chaos to that because it's prior to building process, or prior to building real structure. I and this gentleman thrived in that type of atmosphere,
mhm,
um, because it forces you as a manager to rely on the expertise of the people that you've hired. So
mm,
you are going to hire smarter than you in most cases, and you have to have no ego. So the ability that you are always giving the praise to that person. That person is going to then want to work as hard as possible for you, and then you keep it loose. So at each place that we went to, and I learned this from him, and
mhm,
he came from the record industry,
mm,
right? And so he came from Priority Records. So it went from Priority Records went from, and if you've seen Boys in the not Boys in the Hood, what was it? It'll come to me in a second. But Priority Records is where the California Raisins were, and then NWA went, right?
mm,
That was Priority Records, and he was there. So he took that same kind of family mentality, and we
mhm,
brought it to each location. And
mm,
we have found that it creates a more cohesive group. It allows for more trust. It allows for better communication within the group,
mm,
and then everyone feels it's their company,
mm,
right? Everyone has an invested interest because they know that their opinions could be live in 5 minutes. They know that we're going to listen, and we're not just going to shut them down. We're going to evolve that idea, iterate that idea. Um, we were pretty callous and coarse, so we might have shot a few things down nastily, but the spirit was in a very creative way. We've
mm,
taken that to each place, and my current marketing team. So long story short,
yeah,
my current marketing team, even though we are thousands of miles apart, we're a family. We
mhm,
use all of the devices that at our disposal to have this type of face to face, make them feel like it's invested in the
mhm,
company.
and again, the culture going in the same direction, everybody. Mm,
Are we all pulling from the same rope? Do you know what my goal is as a CMO?
I have
I
no
bet.
idea. Tell me.
No. I'm saying the people, my employees. Do you know?
Oh,
You should know. You should have a piece in this.
mhm,
This is your job too. I'm only as good as my team, and my team is only as good as how I protect them. Right? And so if I can create that kind of, it's more than symbiosis. It like kind of um, hmm, it's a handcuff almost. Like it's like a Siamese twin. You are sharing the same, body, not the
Yeah.
same thoughts. That's kind of how I look at it. And I've taken that from Buck at each location. Make it
Yeah.
fun, make it light. You're not performing heart surgery, and don't back down from a challenge.
Yeah, I love the Siamese twin analogy. I think that's very exaggerated, but it paints the picture
Yeah,
to
yeah.
paints the picture perfectly.
I work in hyperbole a little bit.
I'll say that's the first time I've heard that analogy, but that's going to the top of my list. Okay,
Wait.
Tim, I have one final question here for you, and it's actually not a question from me. It's a question from our last guest to you, and they had no idea who you were.
Hmm,
So, are you ready for the question?
fun.
Here's the question: how do you anticipate AI impacting the culture of your company in the next 3 to 5 years? Very fitting.
I can answer that now. We are now 7 months in to significantly testing AI. And okay, so again, now you're communicating with 300 individuals, about 75 that are full-time employees, and then about 200 that are contractors, and they're all everywhere.
Mhm.
So how do you get your word across without having 300 people on a Zoom call and get them to trust you that we are going to go down this AI path, and it's not to take your job, it's to make your job more efficient. That's how we need people to think about it. And so there was a lot of reluctance dependent on which side of the business. Some businesses, ran after it. Some businesses were like, no, I don't want to. No, I have no need for it. No, 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 no. Now everyone's bought in. And now it's like a cooking club. Now it's like, hey man, I tried this prompt today on Claude, and I got this curriculum back, and that was cool. And then I took that and I did. So what I see AI doing moving forward is we've already created a foundation for anybody that comes in to see how open we are
Hmm.
with the learnings that we gather from it. In addition, we use it as a tool rather than a supplement.
Hmm.
So I don't I I can I can't say I can never get rid of humans, but for now, I cannot get rid of humans. I need humans. Humans will always have a piece of subjectivity that AI does not. And that's an absolute necessity for now. What
Interesting. So it's just intertwining it in the culture and how you guys act at every operation as much as you can, helping each other throughout the process, sharing it with each other, going through the experiences as much. It's literally everything.
everything,
Huh.
everything, everything. So
Right.
it's really exciting. It drives my family nuts.
Awesome. Well, Tim, thank you so much for your time. This has been such a great conversation. I really appreciate you. Where can people go if they want to learn a little bit more about you or maybe a little bit more about iDesign?
I'm on LinkedIn. I guess that's my only social platform. Um, and yeah, my last name is spelled around here on this, up here, over here, somewhere. And you guys do lower thirds, maybe over here. And then idesignedu.org if you want to increase uh, your curriculum.
Amazing. Tim, thank you so much.
Thank you, John.